Welcome to the Passion Behind the Art Show. It's all about diving in with individuals to learn the story behind their passion. It's your host, Daryl Pinham. It's another week, another amazing guest, and another opportunity for me to bring you value through someone else's story. This week's episode is brought to you by Liquid Web, a premium, high-performing hosting company. They work with companies like Home Depot, National Geographic, FedEx, and much more. You can go to liquidweb.com and use the promo code PASSION33, that's PASSION33, to save 33% off your first 3 months. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. Oh my goodness. Episode 100 live event was amazing. So much value. Each guest broke down just various ways on how they turned their passion into dollars. And I'm just so thankful, so grateful for each guest, so grateful for each person that came on and joined. It was just an amazing experience. Yes, I was beat after just streaming live for 9 hours. It was crazy, but it was well worth it. You guys are in for a treat. Truly a treat. So get ready for an amazing experience on how each guest turned their passion into dollars. What up? I am back, and I'm so grateful for all you faithful people that has been coming through. I'm grateful for the ones jumping in and out. I'm grateful for the person that only came for one interview, but you guys that have just been consistently coming back, you guys mean a lot. You just don't know. That means so much to me. All right. So if you haven't, right before Matt comes on, if you haven't, please, this is my lifeblood. It makes me live. Well, the podcast at least. Go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and subscribe and leave a review. Please leave a review. It's Passion Behind the Art. We are everywhere. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, what else? Spotify. So just go and kind of help me out. I'm providing a lot of value, and this is all for free. So how you can pay me back is by doing that. And that would mean the world to me. It would probably make me shed a tear at the end of the night. So my dude, Matt, is here on time. That's what I'm talking about. This guy right here. All right. So, I'm going to invite Matt to come on right now.
Brother.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on?
How's it going, dude?
I'm great. All right, so let's jump into it. Matt Dawson. Who is Matt Dawson? A quick snippet for those who don't know who you are.
So I am traditionally a graphic designer. My work is primarily rooted in branding and identity design, although I like to kind of have my hand in everything, just to kind of stay sharp and not just toil away in some little corner of the design world. There's so much to do. As a designer, I don't want to get that FOMO. Be I want to do that packaging, or I want to do this, UI. So, I'm a graphic designer. I've been working professionally, and by that I mean I've been getting paid to do it for about 11 years. And I run a conference, and I'm a partner with a little boutique agency. I got 2 other partners, and that's kind of the elevator pitch.
Nice. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize, because there's, as you know, the theme is turn your passion into dollars. Mm-hmm. But you did something that is, for anyone that's planning events, you went to a whole nother level by saying, okay, I'm not going to necessarily create an online course. I'm not going to, maybe down the line you probably are going to write a book, but I'm not going to write a book. This is how I'm going to refurbish my creative expertise and everything that I've built through my creative journey. I'm going to do a conference.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's intense, man. It doesn't necessarily translate to dollars. I think that's a misconception a lot of people have. And like plenty of other people, like will tell you, there's no real money in conferences, but that's not really the rewarding aspect of it for me. Like, do I wish it was like a super fruitful payday kind of thing? Yeah, I mean, like that would be nice, because it's basically a full-time job that, we work around the clock year round for. But, to sound really hokey, it's not so much about that as it is about the experiences that, selfishly we get to have for ourselves. Like I've met some of, my now best friends through the conference world. So like we personally get to have a lot of experiences by it, but it's what's really rewarding is, like connecting all these people with resources and life lessons and tips and tricks and inspiration from, these huge designers that are just, like kind of like seemingly unattainable. And then like we bring them into an environment that's affordable and accessible for, a college kid that can bill a freelance client for a couple of hours and then come see our lineup. Like that's where the value is for us, because that's the kind of thing that I always wanted back in the day. And if the handful of people that did help me along my journey, if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be where I am. So, like if this can fast track some others on their journey, that's that's cool.
That's what's up.
It's a good way to give back. And have some fun myself while we're doing it.
That's what's up. So, but bro, so please tell me, like, you're at least making some money from your conference.
I mean, you do make a little bit, but it's kind of one of those things, like we're not out buying
Lamborghinis,
Bentleys or anything afterwards, but like it's kind of, like whenever I say that it's year round, it means like that, part of the profits that are made automatically get allocated to,
right.
Okay, well, we know we've got to step this up, and like this venue needs a deposit because it's really high in demand, so we got to pay for almost the whole venue, like right after we finish at the venue. And we're planning on something for 2020 that's really rad, and that's proving to right now be very expensive. But like it's kind of one of those things, like it's managing money is tough. Like on a personal level, it's even tougher when you're doing it with this big machine that has all these moving parts. And I think human nature, you're like, man, I want a little bit of that for myself. And like that's really all you can do is like a little bit, because like the bulk of it's got to go to taxes, it's got to go to deposits for future stuff, like payouts on the enormous cost that it is to produce it. So I see the potential, but at the same time, we could probably make money if we left things exactly as they were the first year. But that's never how we want to leave things. We always want to improve. We always want to make the experiences better, the parties better. Like bringing in people from, like you just have to go bigger every year. Like you can't level off and just stagnate, because then you're not pushing yourself, and you're not elevating the experience for people.
And you know what, man, I love that real life that you just gave, because someone from the outside looking in could be like, man, like this crop conference, like Matt Dawson has just been over here, just over here, just living. You know what I mean? But it's just the idea of like, what the level of excellence that you're trying to put into this thing is just like the minute, like you're probably already planning for next year before this one even starts.
Right. I mean, right now we're trying to tidy up we're trying to tidy up everything for in a couple weeks, but we're also planning pop-up crop Atlanta for this fall, and we're also planning 2020,
Right.
and we're planning both of our events in 2020. So right now there's like four balls in the air that we're juggling. So it's kind of nonstop, man, but it's uh it's good exercise in time management and project management, and that is an area that that I could use improvement on. So I guess it's good that I'm getting the exercise.
I love it, man. It's cool though, because you're able to kind of, as you said, do more than just, okay, I'm getting to make some dollars. You're actually being able to create an avenue for a person who wants to share their story, and also a person who needs to hear that person's story. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
feel like that's
totally.
like super cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't remember who I was talking to recently, but I don't get to enjoy any of the conference myself. I enjoy putting it on, but like, like the weird irony of it is that, we book all these people that we think are going to impart a lot of knowledge, and that like we respect and admire personally, and then we don't get to see them because it's like, oh man, I gotta run a few blocks down and make sure like this party venue is getting set up right, or I've got to go do this person's having trouble checking in. So like that's the irony of it. It's like all these things that like we want to see, like I want to see, and that I don't get to. So it's kind of like I'm gonna try to take a break this year and sneak in the theater and try to check out a little bit, because uh, it's too
So
good not to.
this question I have for you is like, are you planning to like grow the staff down in the future?
Um, I think right now we've got a solid crew
Okay.
that takes on, a good amount of responsibility, like the month or two out from it. Because like that's really the time where, it where hands are needed most. From a planning perspective and logistics, like that's I guess like that's kind of like my responsibility, and it's easier for me to just handle that throughout the year like I've done. The crunch time really comes down to a couple months before, where like, okay, can you run to this venue? Can you take a video of their party space? Can you, like, let's get these boards primed and prepped and set up somebody that's going to move them to this spot. And so all the moving parts that happen at the actual conference, like we've got a good crew that that um that help facilitate that stuff leading up to it. I'm really bad at delegating. I've never been a good boss for people, um, because I just feel bad, like, because I know how busy I am, and then I know how busy these other people are. So I don't like asking a lot of people, but I've got to get over that, because as they do get bigger, and like the stuff we're planning for next year, like next year will be our fifth anniversary. So
Nice.
I've really got to get over that hump, because we're planning some really uh some like really big shift in things, and it's gonna take some help.
Like I'm trying to like be focused here, and Grizzly Wheeler is cracking me up.
Grizzly Wheeler. Wow. Full Grizz. What's up, Josh? How's it going, man?
Oh man. So okay, so cool. All right. So in regards to the conference, what are some of the ways? Of course, there's ticketed. Is there any other way you kind of get revenue from the conference to be able to cover cost and to just be able to do what you do?
You know, any kind of event you see, you know, like you see sponsor lists and whatnot. But you know, that's really kind of it. You know, like we try to pay for things through ticket sales and sponsor money. You know, like it's been kind of a hurdle. Like I think, you know, a lot of people don't get creative conferences. Um, so, you
Mm,
know, like local businesses in towns where, you know, like the owners might not understand like what's the benefit of this. Like they're reluctant to help out in a sponsor way. I'm just trying to be transparent because like it was a huge hurdle that we were up against this year. You know, like we couldn't even get the visitors bureau,
mm.
you know, in a town that we bring in tons of people, you know, like we sold like 120 hotel rooms to out of town people. And you know,
Wow.
we couldn't even get the visitors bureau to get on board, you know. So it's you've really got to do, you know, part of that work is educating local entities the value that you're bringing to the community, you know, like, hey, this isn't just a, you know, it's not a barbecue fest. So, you know, like everybody knows what that brings, you know, like, yeah,
Right.
it's a good time and there's some good food. But you know, like I feel like what we bring to a community is just that, like community. Like we bring people together that would have never, you know, otherwise wouldn't have come together, you know, like we
Right.
watch friendships form from like all over the world. But you know, it's kind of an uphill battle doing the education part sometimes. So you know, like we predominantly, you know, predominantly rely on ticket sales and like in kind sort of sponsorship.
That's nice. That's what's up. It's crazy to just kind of hear the whole back end of it. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to
Hmm.
the sponsorship part and just trying to get people convinced and on board.
It is, and you know, the traditional sponsorship model is shifting a little bit, you know, to where now people want to, um, you know, brand experiences and like brand activations are becoming more of like, I don't want to give you money and just have my name on a banner, you know, how how can we make this interactive, you know? So getting creative with how you introduce other brands, you know, like that's also kind of like something that we're working with too. So we want things to have value for everybody that contributes and supports. So if there's you know, unique ways that we can kind of like partner with them and do something cool, um, you know, we're all about that as well.
Okay, so we've got client work and we've got conference. Is there any other way? No, the conference is like a big deal for you and a lot of your time. Is there any other way Matt Dawson generates revenue?
I do. This sounds really sounds really like white collar, like dress up. But like I do some consulting for events, which you know there's you know, I haven't quite tapped into the full potential of that, but you know, I think people have seen what we've done event wise, and whenever they want to start something, they kind of come to me, and you know, like for a while I was just kind of like giving away everything, and I think that that's good and bad. That's a double-edged sword because you know, like I like being helpful, but at the same time, there's value to that knowledge, you know. So it was put into my head, you know, like, well, you know, you can charge to consult for that kind of thing. um, so that's another potential revenue stream that I'm working on. I mean, you know, I do little bits of merch here and there. um, it's it's weird being a creative because there's all these different little avenues that you can use to monetize yourself and your skills and your you know, like your your value. But yeah, I mean, the client work, the event consulting, merch. I'm trying to get into some workshopping because I've had a handful of people. That's another thing. You know, I'll get DMs or emails or something, and I'll actually sit there and you know, type out this is how I did this, and you know, like I've got other people, you know, like some of whom have joined us in this live thing. That's like, man, like why aren't you charging for that? And I'm just again like I'm just like, ah. I don't know. It feels like I know how to do it, so why charge? But that's kind of, that's not me taking full advantage of what could be hungry or
Right,
anything like
right.
that. It's just about, me realizing my worth and, like what I can give to somebody else. Like I happily pay for workshops or happily pay for, tutorials or walkthroughs and stuff. So there's no reason why I shouldn't value myself the same way I value those that I support in that manner.
Dude, that I love what you're sharing right now because like you've been planning events and because we've talked before about this, you've been planning events before you started doing this conference,
Hmm.
right? So you have all this content, this information, like the fact that you're doing consulting, like that sounds like that's awesome because literally you could go in and be like the dude that just sets up someone else's event.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
Two, like, I'm not even sure what kind of workshop you're talking about, but you could even be doing like an event workshop, like how to build quality events. Like, this is crazy. So people
Yeah.
like think about the things that y'all are doing and how can you just kind of repurpose it into bringing value and in turn get some kind of revenue. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean you're absolutely right. That makes perfect sense. And I've had one pretty uh pretty successful workshop entity come to me for event planning. Um, it's just, I think the tough part about event planning is people just don't realize how much work it is, and like you really, really got to be dedicated and you've got to do it for the right reasons.
Right.
Um, you know, and I think that's why I've kind of shied away from an actual workshop on that. But the ones that I'm planning and participating in, this year coming up are branding.
Nice.
I'm trying to use like my experience with branding. I'm doing one at CS next week for like badge building. So, and like that kind of stuff's good for me too, because a lot of times I work singularly. Like I've got like my own little office space, but like it's just me in the space. So, so I'm not talking to myself, explaining how I'm doing something. I'm like a crazy man, like it's nice to say things out loud to others and kind of like, I think it's going to help them just as much as it helps me.
That's cool. That's cool. Definitely that branding. If that's the workshop, yeah, I know you're doing a workshop at Creative Stuff,
Yeah.
but like you're a beast at that. So I mean, that's like definitely up your alley. But it's just like so many different possibilities out there versus just forever. Just okay, I'm just gonna stick. I'm gonna do client work. I'm just gonna do that. There's
Yeah.
just so many different possibilities out there.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's kind of, there's no shortage for avenues to support yourself, and it's just about taking the time to do them. And we're all busy, so it's easier than it sounds easier than it actually is. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So we have client work, consulting, the conference, the
hmm
conference, and working on doing some more workshops. Um,
yeah,
any like when it comes to like building revenue and because there was one thing that Ileana, the person that I was interviewing before you, she said, and
hmm
it kind of really, it never really stood out to me, but it's a fact. Like you're on your own, and you are literally going out to generate the revenue. Like you're not getting a paycheck right now or anything like that. You're generating your revenue from your skills and all that stuff. Um, so she said that she had to generate probably almost twice the amount of revenue from her regular day job because there was expenses and things that the job would cover that now when you're the sole provider and you're bringing the revenue you would have to cover.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever you go out on your own, full time, it's really scary because you don't have that safety net, and it's pretty sink or swim. Um, I'm Miss Ileana's, but I know exactly what she's talking about, and it's right. You do have to, you've got to you've got to work really hard, and it's a lot of hats you have to wear too. So
Sure.
it's easy to get discouraged, and like part of my discouragement whenever I went on my own, like full time, was all of the other stuff that you have to do, like all of the courting clients and convincing them why they should go with you, convincing them why they have to pay this much for this, whatever they're asking for you to design,
Right,
and
right.
then invoicing and quoting and chasing down money, like all that stuff. I was just like over it pretty quick, because by the time I was actually getting to the actual design work, um, I was just so burnt out on all the BS, like I was just like, man, like I just want to chill, but now I have to like design. Um, so like I ended up partnering with a couple of friends that I've done a lot of work with over the years, and that like those strengths, my various strengths and weaknesses balance out with their various strengths and
Nice.
weaknesses, and it's been a little bit easier. But yeah, like going out on your own, it's great. um it's just another one of those things, like an event. You've got to be really serious about it. Like you can't just have a chip on your shoulder and be like, I don't want to work for these people anymore. I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Mm.
You got to have a plan, and that that work ethic to back it up and make it happen. Because I mean, like right now, like my I never want to work for anybody again. Like I've just tasted that. It's like that dog when he gets off the leash, and like you just, yeah, like you just want to have that freedom. But like I also know that you know it might not be forever, and I'm okay if I ever have to take a job somewhere. But right now, like my focus is forward and not what ifs. So
That's what's up. All right, Raska has a couple questions. He said,
okay.
talk about doing event planning for the right reasons. How do you know? How do you know you have a successful event? Is it the numbers or attendees or testimonials?
I think for me, how I know we're doing something right is testimonials. Selling out is great. It's honestly a benchmark that I'm kind of um not unhealthily obsessed with, but like selling out, it just puts one moving piece to rest, you
Right.
know, um, and then I can focus on this or that. So while selling, lots of tickets is good, it really is about, people coming away and getting the messages afterwards, getting the feedback from people, both positive and negative. But like we've had a pretty good run of positive feedback, and like, hey, like I go to a lot of these things, and I feel like you guys are doing something completely different than entity A, B, or C.
Right, right, right.
Like whenever we did Pop Up Crop Portland, Mark Bricky from Adventures in Design, who talks to all these, larger than life people and goes everywhere and does his thing. Like whenever he like comes up to you, and not in a big public way, whenever he just comes up to you and puts his hand on your back and is like, this is the hands down best conference I've ever been a part of. Like
That's a
that's
big deal.
that's like a huge, like beacon of success. It's like, man, like but like, even with an entity like Mark, it's great whenever, the student is like, this has completely shifted my perspective. And like, I'm so happy that, I was able to come. Like they're equally rewarding and, like good benchmarks for success, in my opinion.
Nice, nice. So what is this whole idea of doing it for the right reasons? What is that?
Um, like the two things I tell people they have to, like push aside, like if you're wanting to do an event, don't want to do it for any kind of like personal fame or gain or notoriety. That's not a good reason to start something like that. And second, like don't go into it thinking you're going to make a bunch of money off of it, because like it's just, again, it's hard work. So and I feel like those are two of the most common wants that I hear of whenever people come up to me, both young and old, and they want to do an event. And you can kind of tell that those reasons aren't going to make it a successful event. Like your primary reason, instead of being noticed or being seen, should be like, well, what kind of experience can I provide for these people? That should be, it's the same thing. Like whenever a client comes to you and the very first thing they ask is how much for a logo,
Right.
they don't tell you anything about their business, or what they're just coming at it from, their intentions might be okay, but they're coming at it from like the wrong angle.
Right.
So I think whenever people come at, an event planning angle from like, oh man, like, do you think I could make a lot of money from this? Or, am I going to get some kind of glorification from being this guy? It's those are the wrong angle approaches for me. And that's what I always try to tell people. Like, no, like you should be focused on what you can provide for people, and like what service you can offer them. And that's really like, that's kind of like my rule of thumb.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I think even like just doing this podcast, that's the main thing that's my approach. Like, how can I bring more value? How can I give people more? How can I make sure that, like, I built some pretty awesome relationships? How can I use that to kind of, whoever's listening, give them more?
Exactly. Like you're not trying to make Gerald famous with passion behind the art. You're trying to provide something for people. And I think that's it's a good motivator. It's in my mind and in my moral compass, it's the correct motivator. Yeah.
I love it. So we got another question. How does one transition after relocating from another country to another?
Oh man, you're asking the wrong person. I've never relocated from one country to another. I've done some pretty significant some moves.
Yeah, you just did one. Is it official?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is, but I mean, from one country to another, yeah, I don't really know how to answer that one. I know here in the States, it's just like what's great about one of the really good benefits about social media is how connected it makes you with people like you never thought you could be connected to before. Josh Ariza, why are you so good at logos now? But I think we live in a time now where accessibility to other people with common interests and even common careers as you, like you can go on Dribble and search by location. So if you're moving to wherever, you can, Brooklyn, New York, you can go and search Brooklyn and see all those designers and shoot them a message. Like we live in this crazy like world now where like accessibility to people is instant. Like you shoot them a DM, like you shoot them an email. It's so if you're relocating from one country to another and you're worried about like acclimating to the new scene there, like I think no matter how old we get, we always have like that new kid anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm the new kid here. People are gonna like me, or people are gonna think I'm cool, or like Jason Craig said, you can search LinkedIn, which is true. If you're into LinkedIn, you can search that as well. But yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out and drop somebody a line and be like, hey, I'm moving here. Like, let's go get lunch. Let's go get coffee. I like your work. But yeah, that's how I've done it, and that's how I've made friends.
Well, I kind of know the person that's asking, so I would tell her, get into that industry, get into that whatever that thing you're trying to build the event around. Like, get to know people, put yourself out there, like just get acclimated into that industry. Because she's not a designer. I'm not sure what kind of event she's trying to do, but get into that industry. So you could kind of get the feel and get to know people, build some quality relationships, start building friends around that industry,
Yeah.
and kind of take it from there.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot easier to reach out to people than you think.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
That is so true. I went through that when I was starting a podcast, like this whole mental trip about people saying no or people not answering. And you'll be surprised the amount of people that, you know what I mean, that are willing to kind of just hear what you got going on and see how they could help.
Yeah, yeah. People are way people are way more friendly and accessible than you think. I think like we just kind of internalize a lot of things in our mind and kind of give in to that. Oh, well, they're not gonna want to talk to me. They're not gonna come speak at this thing. They're not gonna want to do my podcast. But it's always surprising once you get over that hump and you just like, oh man, that person's awesome. Like I can't believe they're so down to earth or willing. So
Right. Because that's how we got to know each other.
exactly, yeah,
So, you just never know. As Roscoe said, slide in that DM.
exactly. Yes.
Oh, dude, this has been awesome. I appreciate you, man. I am trying to figure out now that I realized that I had the dates all mixed up, if I'm gonna try to sneak up to the conference. I'm gonna try to pull that off. I'm gonna try to
Yeah,
talk to my wife, but we'll
keep
see.
keep me posted. I know how that part goes too. So yeah, keep me posted, man. It'd be rad. But yeah, like this has been a lot of fun, man. How's the rest of your day been? I've tried to tune in a couple times.
It's been great. Just
Yeah.
the compared to my first live stream to now, the technical difficulties have been nothing, basically. Nothing. So it's been awesome, man. I'm so excited about what's going on. I'm glad that I could have people like you on to kind of, one, share what you're doing, but two, give like the real life aspect behind it, like just being real about it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Well, dude, I'm gonna let you go, but thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and we definitely be in touch, man.
Sounds good, Gerald. Have a good one, dude.
All right.
Later, bud.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope it's been super valuable to you and you're now ready to take your audience building, your community growing to the next level to help you and help me build our empire, for lack of a better word, or just to build our thing. Remember to stop by iTunes, Passion Behind the Art, and leave a review and subscribe. It's very important to me. It helps the podcast grow, and it makes me feel good to kind of hear from you guys, to know what you like about this podcast, what it's done for you. So jump on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review. Passion Behind the Art. Be blessed.